Okay, so we were discussing about serum. So what exactly the serum is? Plasma without blood clotting factors is called it as the serum. Correct na? So in a very simple words, we can say, a liquid part of the blood sample in which dissolved fibrinogen is converted into the solid fibrin. Suppose all of you please look into this picture. This is the plasma. This is RBC. In the middle what we are having? WBC cell according to what? Centrifugation. Now here plasma contain the fibrinogen, that is the blood clotting factor. If I remove this particular fibrinogen, then that part is called as the serum part. Okay, so now focus very correctly. This is the question which is asked in the previous year paper. Okay, hematocrit. Okay, what is called as the hematocrit? He means what? Blood. Crit means volume. Okay, in a total blood volume, how much volume occupied specifically by RBC? That is what exactly we called as a hematocrit. Okay, so again if I take a blood volume as the 100%, in the 100%, in case of a males, 40 to 54% is only RBC. In case of a females, it is 38 to 46. What is the reason we studied, right? In the males, increased level of testosterone compared to the female, which stimulate the process of erythropoiesis. In addition, in the female, there is a loss of blood during the menstrual cycle. Now again, in the entire endocrine system, we all discussed about the process of regulation. What is that regulation? Anything should not be higher and should not be lower. An example, body temperature. Body temperature should be always 98.4 degree. Correct na? Suppose if the body temperature is more than that, what will happen? Which we generally elevated body temperature is called fever. When the body temperature is lower than the normal, we call it a shivering condition. So body temperature has to maintain its concentration compulsory. I mean to say its level compulsory. Same thing goes with the sodium. Correct? Now what we discussed about sodium yesterday, more the sodium level, more blood pressure, more the blood volume. At the same time, if the sodium level comes down, so what happened? Blood volume will decreases, blood pressure also decreases. So everything we have to maintain. Similarly friends, we have to maintain the level of the blood also compulsory. So if blood percentage is lower than the normal, we call it as anemia. So in the blood which is highest composition, obviously RBC. So in a simple definition, and what is the function of RBC? Transport of oxygen. That is the function of the RBC. So how can I give the definition of the anemia? Lower number of RBC. In other words, significant reduction of RBC. In other words, significant reduction of oxygen carrying capacity. Correct now friends? If RBC number is lower, what happened to the oxygen carrying capacity? That will also become lower, which is called as anemia. So what is the treatment in these kind of anemic patients? Every 15 days or every 30 days, we have to give the blood transfusion. Correct na? Because every time their oxygen carrying capacity is decreasing. Without oxygen, cell cannot survive, which is a very dangerous condition or life-threatening condition. So in a simple words, anemia is the significant reduction of the total RBC. The next one, polycythemia. So here RBC number is decreased and here RBC number is increased. So when it is more than the normal, we call polycythemia. So some people will get a doubt, sir, if we have a blood more than the normal, is it not healthy? It is not healthy. Correct na? So anything has to maintain the homeostasis only. Now you can ask me, sir, why polycythemia is happening? Now again the question, polycythemia is mostly possible in the males compared to the females. Why? Because polycythemia means excess RBC. Excess RBC is present where? In the males, because of the presence of testosterone. Correct na? So polycythemia may be caused due to increased erythropoiesis. And there is one more possibility. This is also a question. Polycythemia means what? Increasing RBC level during the Tissue hypoxia. Hypo, lower, oxia, oxygen. You might observe this is not completely proven. When we are climbing the mountains, what happen? Oxygen levels will be lower. Immediately what kidney will do? Kidney release erythropoietin. That erythropoietin increases more production of RBC. Then automatically we feel normal. But once we keep on climbing, that is also not sufficient. That's why mountaineers carry oxygen cylinders, because immediately body cannot produce abundant amount of the RBC which can support the oxygen. Correct na? So in the tissue hypoxia condition, there will be a increasing in the level of the RBC. Don't get confused. Okay. Now let's discuss first how RBC can be produced, then we will completely discuss how the WBC can be produced. Okay, because most of the questions comes from the RBC compared to the WBC. What is called hemopiosis? Sometimes they use the word hematopiosis. Hem or hemato means blood or red blood cells. Okay, piosis, production. The process of formation of the formed elements of the blood called as hemopiosis or hematopiosis. You all give the straightforward answer now. Where the hematopiosis occur? Bone marrow. That is the simple answer you will give. But remember all of you, before birth itself, hematopiosis will start. Before the birth itself. Now understand the point correctly. Before the birth, hematopiosis first occur in the yolk sac of an embryo. Okay, yolk sac of an embryo. Later, hematopiosis occur in the liver, spleen and thymus and lymph nodes of fetus. Now the question, why we are calling bone marrow? See, before 3 months of the birth and till the end of the life, entire blood cells can be produced in the red bone marrow. So red bone marrow becomes the primary site of the hemopiosis only in the last 3 months before birth and continues as the source of blood after the birth and throughout the life. So only just before 3 months of the birth only red bone marrow become the primary source. Before that, first is yolk sac followed by liver, spleen, thymus and lymph nodes. Okay, so in the exam you have to understand whether they are using the word red bone marrow or liver, spleen, thymus. Depending on the question, you have to choose the specific answer. Now, this is a very important slide. I want you to understand this slide very clearly without having a confusion. Okay, bone marrow, we call it as pluripotent stem cells. All of you please answer. Tell me, Ayesha, plants are totipotent or pluripotent? Totipotent. Why? Because single cell. Suppose example, this is a plant. I cut any part of the plant. What do we call it as? Explant. When I keep it in a culture, it can give rise to the whole plant. So a single cell of the plant having the ability to give rise to the whole organism. That's why they are called totipotent. Suppose if I cut a liver cell and if I keep it in the culture, whole body will come? No. So we are not totipotent. We are what? Pluripotent. Means we are specialized to give rise to only a specific cells. Okay. So our bone marrow is said to be what cell? Pluripotent stem cell. So you have to listen the whole lesson, then you can read the NCERT and beyond its level. Okay. Now pluripotent stem cell going to give rise to myeloid stem cell and lymphoid stem cell. As the name itself indicating, lymphoid stem cell is going to give rise to lymphocytes. So lymphoid stem cell is going to give rise to T lymphoblast, B lymphoblast, natural killer lymphoblast. Got it? Now the T lymphoblast differentiated into T cells. You're getting the point. We'll read in the immunology, but you know it. T cell further differentiated into T helper cell and T cytotoxic cell. T helper cells are involved in the production of antibodies. T cytotoxic cells have a major role in destructing the virus attacked cells. That we'll read separately. Correct na? Whereas what is other cell? B lymphoblast, which is going to give rise to B cells. B cell differentiated into plasma cell and memory cell. What is that? Plasma and memory. Plasma cell produce antibodies. Memory cell store the copy of antibodies. Correct na? So B cell give rise to plasma and memory. Plasma produce antibody, memory cells store the copy of antibody. The next one is what? Natural killer lymphoblast. They are going to give rise to natural killer cells. Natural killer cells are those type of cells whenever any virus, see this is a healthy cell. Healthy cell is attacked by virus. Now I can't call it as healthy cell. I call it as virus infected cell. Now virus infected cell can be captured by natural killer cell. And some cells are called tumor infected cell, which are cancerous cell. Those cancerous cells are also captured by natural killer cell. Then you will get a doubt why natural killer cell cannot destroy all the cancerous cells. Correct na? Natural killer cells having very low lifespan, like WBC only. Right? WBC also having very low lifespan. Now natural killer cell recognize the virus infected cell and it will kill that cell, and natural killer cell also will die because lifespan is very, very lower. Okay. Lymphoid stem cell giving rise to T lymphoblast, B lymphoblast and natural killer lymphoblast. Now this is what? Myeloid stem cell. See, pluripotent stem cell, which is bone marrow, giving rise to lymphoid stem cell, myeloid stem cell. Myeloid stem cell is the one which give rise to RBC, WBC and platelets. Lymphoid stem cell give rise to B lymphocyte, T lymphocyte and natural killer cell. So myeloid stem cell, don't get confused, it is giving rise to the pro-erythroblast. What is that? Pro-erythroblast and megakaryoblast. Now tell me, what is called erythro is red blood cell. Pro means immature. You know right, we call pro-insulin. Why don't we use the word mature insulin? Pro-insulin means it is inactive, immature. Correct na? It contains chain A, chain B, chain C. We cut the chain C, then it becomes mature insulin. Similarly, we use the word pro-erythroblast, it is not mature. Then pro-erythroblast entered, see, you might read RBC do not have nucleus. Yes. Correct na? So whenever, listen, whenever it is having the nucleus, we call pro-erythroblast. Whenever it loses its nucleus, we called reticulocyte. What is that? Reticulocyte. Now the reticulocyte when enter into the blood, it become RBC. Whenever it born, we call pro-erythroblast. Upon ejecting, when it eject the nucleus upon maturation. Upon maturation, it eject the nucleus, convert into reticulocyte. Reticulocyte convert into RBC when enter into the blood circulation. Mega, large, karyo, nucleus, blast, cell. The cell which is having a larger nucleus, which is platelet. Also called as thrombocytes. Correct na? So these are all what? Myeloid stem cell give rise to pro-erythroblast and megakaryoblast. And what else myeloid stem cell give rise to? It is giving rise to eosinophil, basophil and very good, neutrophil and most important one, monocyte. Correct na? These are all coming from myeloid stem cell. Only lymphoid stem cell is going to give rise to these three. That's all. Now what is happening? Eosinophils plays a key role in the parasitic infection. We will read that. Basophil involved in allergic or inflammation. Neutrophil cells are the first or early responders of inflammation. Monocytes, when they are in the blood circulation, they act like a monocyte. They enter into the tissue. They become macrophages. They do the process of phagocytosis. So all came from pluripotent stem cell, which is red bone marrow. Correct na? This is how they are all derived from. Okay, don't get confused over there. Now in the yesterday chemical control and coordination, we got the question right, erythropoietin. So now remember, inside the body, any cell wants to be produced or any cell wants to be differentiated, it requires certain growth factors. The growth factor named as EPO, erythropoietin. Poietin production, erythro-RBC. So the growth factor which is involved in the production of the RBC called as erythropoietin. It is released from juxtaglomerular cells of the kidney. Now you imagine a condition, there is a renal or kidney failure. There is no release of EPO, no production of RBC, no supply of oxygen. So the cell death occurs. What is called cell death? Apoptosis. What is that? Apoptosis. It is the name of the cell death. Because every cell will die in the body. Then only new cell will form. That process is called apoptosis. Then similarly, however erythropoietin is involved in the production of the RBC, we are having thrombopoietin. Whereas thrombopoietin is released by liver. Thrombopoietin is responsible for the stimulation of platelets, which plays a key role in the blood clotting. Okay, so one is erythropoietin, second one is thrombopoietin. Now first let's discuss elaboratively about RBC, then we will move to the WBC. By that it becomes easy, you can answer any kind of a question. Now RBC, what is the specialty of RBC? Erythrocyte contain oxygen carrying protein. We call hemoglobin. Can you give the definition of the hemoglobin? See here. Hemoglobin contain globin and heme. Globin is what part? Protein part. Heme is non-protein part. Correct na? Heme is non-protein, globin is protein. So which is a pigment. So hemoglobin is in what color? Red color. I mean to say, because of the hemoglobin, blood renders red in color. That red color can be given by a part called as globin. Okay. See, this is also again question. Adult male contain 5.4 million RBC per microliter of blood. If I take a small drop of blood, which contain nearly 5.4 million RBC. 5.4 million RBC means how much? 1 million is 10 lakhs. Nearly 54 lakhs of RBC are present in one drop of blood. If you take a female, 4.8 million RBC per microliter of blood. Now again, the question which we read multiple times, how does the RBC look like? RBC is a biconcave. This is also a question in the exam. This is how it look like. It is a biconcave structure. Now very interesting point here. Since it is biconcave in shape, it is having more surface area. When more the surface area, higher the oxygen transport. Transport also becomes very faster. Suppose example, if I am drinking a coffee, very hot coffee in a cup, it takes little bit time. But if I pour the same hot coffee in the saucer, I can drink little faster. Yes. Why? Because surface area got increased. Absorption also increased. Here, more the surface area, more the transport. Right? That's why RBC exhibiting in the biconcave shape. Now very interesting question. RBC lack of a nucleus. When it is in the proerythroblast, it contains nucleus. Upon maturation, convert into reticulocyte upon ejecting the nucleus. Then RBC do not have nucleus, and it do not have other organelles such as mitochondria also. Even though it contains mitochondria, very less number of mitochondria is present. Hence, they cannot produce bulk amount of ATP also. Now, my question to all of you is, this is RBC. RBC what do not contain? Nucleus. In a typical human cell, which will occupy the most of the position? Nucleus only. If you take a plant cell, which occupies the major position? Vacuole. And inside the human cell, nucleus. Now this nucleus only not there. And some mitochondria also not there. What happened to the remaining space? So remaining, we have a lot of space. We call lumen. Hollow lumen. Completely empty space. Through this empty space only oxygen will be transported. You're getting? Why more oxygen transported through the RBC? Because a lot of space is there. In that space only hemoglobin is present. Okay, so cytosol of RBC contain abundant amount of hemoglobin molecule. So now this is a very interesting question. Listen, RBCs are highly specialized for oxygen transport. Now look into the point. Mature RBC do not have nucleus. Hence all the internal space is available for transport of oxygen. Now everyone look into this line. Because RBC lack mitochondria also. We know that mitochondria is a powerhouse of the cell. Now I told to all of you, how many cells are there in the typical human body? 37.2 trillion, not billion, trillion cells are there. Every cell require ATP. Otherwise no cell is functional in the body. Now the question is that RBC do not have mitochondria, hence they cannot synthesize ATP. Correct na? But what is the function of RBC? Transporting oxygen. If it wants to transport, it require more energy. Then how it can synthesize the energy? It will synthesize the energy by using anaerobic respiration. Okay, it's a very important statement. RBC follows the anaerobic respiration, produce a very less amount of ATP. By using that ATP, it will transport the oxygen. So what most of the students think, how we can produce more ATP by using oxygen? Correct na? We read cellular respiration, Krebs cycle, electron transport chain. In the Krebs cycle, we use oxygen, we produce 36 to 38 molecules of ATP. But now you all has to get a doubt. RBC is transporting what? Oxygen only. So it can use the oxygen and it can produce more ATP, right? Correct na? So RBC never ever use the oxygen whatever it is transporting. RBC performs anaerobic respiration, produce less ATP, and by using that less ATP it can transport the oxygen. You're getting the point. They do not use up any of the oxygen that it is transporting. It always follows anaerobic respiration. Now RBC contain what? Hemoglobin. Correct na? So again the question which is asked in the exam, you might read in the biomolecules, hemoglobin is what kind of a protein? Quaternary structure. Correct na? Quaternary means which contain 4 polypeptide chains. So which are 2 alpha chains and 2 beta chains. Correct na? So these 2 will be the alpha and these 2 will be the beta chains. Correct na? That's why we call it a quaternary structure. See, just now I told you, right? It contain globin and heme. Globin means this protein. 2 alpha protein, 2 beta. But what about the heme? Heme contain iron. This is the structure of heme. Okay, what structure it is? Heme. In the center, it contain iron. That's why we call iron containing heme. Correct na? I don't know whether you remember or not. It contain 1, 2, 3, 4. Which are pyrrole rings. Very good. Okay. So what do we call tetrapyrrole? Okay. So don't get confused. Tetrapyrrole also present in where? Chlorophyll. So chlorophyll also contain tetrapyrrole ring. Heme also contain tetrapyrrole ring. Now please recall, in the tetrapyrrole ring of the chlorophyll we are having magnesium. Here we are having iron. That's the fundamental difference. But both contain tetrapyrrole ring. So that's why we can call iron containing heme. No point of confusion. Now let's understand. Protein pigment is the globin, non-protein pigment is heme. Is bound to each of the 4 chains. At the center of each heme ring, see, this is the question again in the exam. In the hemoglobin, iron is present in which form? Fe2 plus or Fe3 plus. This is also very important statement to be remembered. It is always exhibiting in the Fe2 plus. See, we are always using a word that RBC is involved in the transport of oxygen with the help of hemoglobin. So which part of the hemoglobin combined with oxygen? Which is Fe2 plus. Now again there is a question they can ask in the NEET. How many oxygen molecules carried by one hemoglobin molecule? So one hemoglobin molecule combines with 4 oxygen. Okay. We read in the breathing and exchange of gases. I believe you all remember, hemoglobin combines with oxygen. See, you know very well, if you take 100% of the oxygen, hardly 1.5% of oxygen is soluble in the plasma. What about remaining 98.5? Combined with hemoglobin, which is called oxyhemoglobin. Correct na? So hemoglobin not only transport oxygen but also transport carbon dioxide. You read na? Hemoglobin also combine carbon dioxide. So hemoglobin also transport about 23% of total carbon dioxide. Okay, total CO2. Correct na? Don't confuse over there. So now let's understand the physiology of the RBC. Okay. Now again in the matching questions we can get RBC live only how many days? 120 days. Okay. Because a mechanism called as wear and tear. Which means, friends, the plasma membrane of the RBC is flexible. It is not rigid. See, we read now enzymes, lock and key model and inducer fit model. In the lock and key model, the active site is rigid. Means if I keep a perfect key, then only it will open. Say, but And other model, flexible. Same, RBC is also, it is flexible, it's not a rigid. So it can break very easily. That breaking is called wear and tear. Okay, so now plasma membrane becomes more fragile with age and the cells are more likely to burst. Now, very simple question which is asked multiple times in the exam, you also read na. In which cells RBC destruction occur? See, now every student will give the answer. What is the question I asked? Which cells are involved in the RBC destruction? What is the answer you have given? No, what is the answer you have given? Spleen. Spleen is a cell. No. What is spleen? Organ. Now what is the question I asked? Cell. What is the cell? Macrophage. So inside the spleen, what we are having, this is macrophage. So inside the spleen we are having macrophage. Within the macrophage of the spleen, RBC destruction occur. Correct na? Now after 120 days, RBC breakdown, it is giving rise to what protein? Globin. And non-protein part is called as? Heme. Correct na? Globin is protein only, no? Protein breakdown into? Amino acids. And again that amino acid reused for the synthesis of proteins. And what about this heme? Heme is what actually? Non-iron part. Correct na? Sorry, non-protein part. Now remember, heme further divided into two types. One is iron containing heme, non-iron containing heme. You are getting the point? One is iron containing heme, non-iron containing heme. Non-iron containing heme called as biliverdin, bilirubin. Where they are produced? Biliverdin, very good, liver and spleen. Biliverdin and bilirubin, they are very toxic. See, we read no, excess level of the bilirubin and biliverdin causes a disease, jaundice. Correct na? Which means we have to send them compulsory out of the body. Correct na? So in the liver, bilirubin converted into a less toxic form. So some of the toxic bilirubin released in the form of a feces. That's why sometimes feces are brownish in color, especially in the jaundice people, because bilirubin is going out. And some of the bilirubin released in the form of a urine. That's why urine will be extremely painful during the jaundice conditions. So because they are all toxic products which are releasing out from the body. So this is what part of the heme? Non-iron part. What is the iron part? Fe. Now Fe from the spleen it enter into the liver. From the liver again it enter into the bone marrow. So Fe3 plus enter into the bone marrow. In the bone marrow what protein we have? Globin. And we are also having erythropoietin. Most important for the exam, again for the exam point of view, remember, for the RBC production what do we require? Vitamin B12. So vitamin B12, erythropoietin, globin, Fe3 plus all together make up of RBC. That enter into the blood. This entire process will take 120 days. That's why the lifespan of the RBC is 120 days. Understand till here? See, I will explain extreme depth by discussing the NCERT, but first I am focusing on the excess points. Okay, now let's go to a simple NCERT level. By that you never ever miss any kind of a question in the exam. See, whichever other students are not reading, we have to read that points. That is what makes us different from the others. What happened? Just a minute. What is the time? Okay, just a 10 minutes. Only 10 minutes. Okay, now let's come to your simple NCERT level. Okay, so according to the syllabus of our NEET, we have to majorly focus on what? One second. We have to majorly focus on composition of blood. This is what we are discussing now. We have to focus on blood group, blood clotting, composition of lymph. Till here we called blood. From here we call circulatory system, where see 90% of the time you never get the question from structure of the human heart. You don't get that question. But in order to understand everything, this is fundamental. You have to know the structure of the human heart, how the blood is pumping. Where the question appears in the exam is from cardiac cycle, ECG, and very important, regulation. If not, questions comes from the diseases. Correct, na? So this is the exact syllabus here. Okay. Now just a minute. So these are all the simple NCERT lines. So you can read it exactly from here. So blood is a special connective tissue which is in what nature? Fluid, consisting of a fluid matrix called as plasma and the formed elements. It is red color, thick, salty and slightly alkaline. Temperature is 38. Okay. So an adult human has 5 liters of blood, which constitute, we discussed, in 8% of body weight. Correct, na? So liquid components are how much? 55% is plasma, 45% is the formed elements. Okay. So these are all your simple NCERT line, but questions won't come in that much easy way. So you can see, right? This is whole blood now, 100%. So total body weight, it is total 8%. Now I did the centrifugation. Then I got RBC down, our formed elements are down, plasma is on the top, WBC and platelets are in the middle. So water is 91% in the plasma, proteins are 7%, in this more albumin, followed by globulin, followed by fibrinogen. Remaining are inorganic nutrients, hormones, regulatory substances, all these, waste material. Then RBC, what is the number? 5,000. Very good, it is more than 5 million. Platelets, 1.5 lakh to 4 lakh, that's all. WBC? 5,000. So which are thousands in number? WBC. Lakhs in number? Platelets. Millions in number? RBC. And if I take all the WBC as 100%, major WBC is neutrophil. Least WBC is what? Basophil. That you have to remember in a correct way. Okay. So, okay. Now see here, plasma is a straw colored viscous fluid. Why do we use the word viscous, friends? Because it is denser and it is fluidized. It is moving, right? So if something is moving or having the ability to move, we called viscous fluid. Nearly 55% of the blood, 90 to 92% of the plasma is water. Remaining are proteins. So fibrinogen, globulin and albumin. So what we have got in the NCERT, other solutes which are present in the 2%. Glucose, amino acid, fatty acid, glycerol. You know, right, what is the function of the glycerol? Glycerol convert into glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and enter into the glycolysis. Glucose enter into the glycolysis. We read in the first class of cellular respiration. Amino acids are also break down, undergo transamination, enter into the Krebs cycle only. Obviously, they are going to give rise to energy only. Correct, na? So what I am trying to explain, these are all nutrients present in the plasma. Apart from the nutrients, it has waste materials. When I use the word waste material, they are always nitrogenous, such as urea, uric acid, ammonia, creatinine. See, you know, right, body should not store this uric acid. Okay, if it store, it leads to a condition called as gout. Okay, accumulation of uric acid in the fingers and toes, we call it gout. Correct, na? Joints especially. So these are all waste present in the plasma. So we should not store them under any circumstances. Okay. So the next ones are major is formed elements, which are 45% of the whole blood. And where it is happening? In the red bone marrow. And this process of synthesis of the formed elements only called it as what? Hematopoiesis. So major portion is RBC. Then what is the next one? After RBC. After RBC there are platelets. That's why we arranged in this way. Correct, na? And remaining all are WBC. In this, neutrophils are highest, basophils are the lowest. In this way they will be arranged. But all are arranged in the form of a thick slurry. Okay. So now please look into this major WBC cells. It's a simple function where you can expect the question in the form of matching. So granulocytes, agranulocytes. So again the question, how we call it as the granulocytes when we observe under light microscope. Please remember, it contains some conspicuous granules. Okay, neutro, isino, baso. Function of baso? Involved in the allergic and inflammation. So very important for the exam. Basophil releases histamine. Correct na? Never confuse over there. Okay. And anything else? What basophil releases? Very good. What is that? Serotonin, which is neurotransmitter. And it very good. What is heparin? Natural anticoagulant. And it also releases PAF, platelet activated factor. Which is, because inflammation means what? Blood clot also occur. So we require the platelet activated factor. So eosinophils, what we discussed? Fight against parasitic infection. Any worm infections can be fought by this particular eosinophil. Neutrophils, early responders, which help in the process of phagocytosis. So lymphocytes further divided into B, T, natural killer. B further divided into plasma cell, memory cell. Plasma cell produce antibodies, memory cell store the copy of antibody. Lymphocytes, lymphocytes only, B lymphocyte and T lymphocyte. Monocytes are further modified into macrophages. Natural killer cells are the cells which destruct virus infected cell and tumor infected cell, not the bacterial. Okay, it mainly involved in killing of this one. Okay, clear everyone till this particular slide? Okay, only this unit will take another 6 to 7 classes. It's a very big unit in the entire syllabus. Okay, but whatever we discuss, question never ever go beyond that particular level. Okay. All right, so remaining will continue in the next class. Okay, so for the next week, how much ever I complete, that much you write the exam. Anyway, Monday you are writing the exam on chemical control and coordination. For the upcoming Friday, 99% will be completed. So how much ever I completed, you do that much. Okay. Suppose except ECG and cardiac regulation, I will complete everything. Whichever is I completed, you do it. Okay. See, once again, remember human physiology, we have to practice more than any chapter. Compared to other chapter, this is the only chapter we have to spend more time. See, ecology, rDNA technology, kind of conceptual and memorized. Molecular basis and genetics, completely conceptual. But this is the chapter conceptual plus informative. So you have to remember lot of information. Okay, by that we can crack it. Okay, done. Okay, you go for the lunch break. Okay, come. You also watch the first class of endocrine system. Okay, by that it will be clear to you. Okay, go for lunch. Did you brought the lunch box? You only, man.